One overlooked aspect to ADA compliance in the digital world is how web agencies deal with ADA compliance. Right now, agency owners are facing pressure from clients who are asking, is our website ADA compliant? Why isn't our website ADA compliant? How do we make it ADA compliant? And then they also have questions internally, like how are we going to deal with this? What is our messaging going to be to clients, given that we haven't thought of accessibility in the past? Now we want to market it, or now we don't want to market it. How do we address this? How do we update our contract language? And so I want to address the contract language aspect in this video. And so when it comes to contract language, what I would do is I would add a clause in my contract. Now you're likely going to need to tie in this clause to other parts of the contract, but just for simplicity's sake, let's just imagine we are adding one simple clause. And when we add this clause, it's going to be for accessibility. It's not going to be for ADA compliance or compliance with any other law, because we want to speak to accessibility because the laws vary. There are other requirements in the law. So we are going to specifically address accessibility. And when we do, we're going to write in plain language, and we're going to be clear in what our responsibilities are, what we are going to provide, what we are not going to provide, and we are going to try to limit our liability as best as possible. Now, this is going to depend on your agency, right? How you approach this, how you take care of things for clients. So there's going to be a lot of specifics to you, but the real big takeaway from this first section is just to be transparent and make it clear. You don't want to leave anything to question, because if you do, that's likely going to come back later. So there's going to be questions. We want to have this section be the end all when it comes to accessibility. Now, it doesn't have to be long, but it does have to be complete. So this can be a half a page. It doesn't have to be 2 pages, but you just want to make sure that you end the question of accessibility, whatever the answer is. Now, what you write is going to depend on your approach to accessibility, and there are three main approaches. And it can be where you avoid accessibility, where you embrace it, or you take a hybrid approach where you offer accessibility services, but someone else is fulfilling them. So, what approach you decide is best for your organization is going to affect the language that you have. And then we get to the accessibility section itself and writing it. You will always include the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, in this section, because invariably those are tied to accessibility in the digital world. Even if it's not a web asset, these are web-based guidelines, but even if it's not a web asset, you're still going to come back to these guidelines. So you want to include that in this section. Again, you don't want to make it specific to any one law, but you can mention the laws, and this way it will help everyone understand the context. So if your clients are asking about the Americans with Disabilities Act, if they're asking about Section 508, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, EN 301, 549, etc., you can include all of those laws, but you're not going to make it specific to any one law. So you can mention those. And as I alluded to earlier, compliance with the law is difficult because there are often other, let's say, administrative requirements beyond just the material compliance. So I know many clients just they throw ADA compliance for their website, and they think that making it accessible is all that it consists of. But right now, we don't even have a formal legal outline of what is necessary to be ADA compliant, but we do know the two best practices. But this is again why we don't tie this section to any one law, but we will want to mention it, because we know in the U.S. generally people are concerned with being sued over website accessibility. They always are, or they usually mention the ADA, but it's good to include it, but we don't. It's not that we want to make it our section about ADA compliance. We want to make it about WCAG conformance and accessibility, and then also you want to talk about client responsibilities and how where your abilities stop. So if you're managing everything for a client, then that's going to change things. If the client goes and is making edits, is publishing new content, then that's going to change things. So those are some considerations, and those are the main considerations for this section. But you want to think about all of the questions that you get from clients. Think about those questions. Think about the things that come up, the things that you've heard other agency owners are thinking about. You may want to include other things in this section as well. So whatever is commonly coming up, whatever questions people have, whether you address PDFs, whether you're addressing documents, subdomains, third-party integrations, etc. Those are all things that could potentially come up and that you would include. It's really going to depend on your specific circumstance. And then, of course, you're going to go over this with an attorney. That's what I recommend, because there are specifics to your situation. I've already gone over a few. You have your current contracts, so you have to transition your clients and into this new contract language. Then you have to tie in any other relevant sections of your contract. You may want to include an arbitration clause if you haven't already done so, etc. So there are some other things that you need to think about, but now you have a starting point to work from. So as I talked about, I think I talked about this earlier, I do have a course on how web agencies can better transition into accessibility. And this course really gives you a good starting point, a good foundation for what to think of, and then also how to build from that. And I provide templates. One of the templates I have is on contract language. So here's a section for this approach. Here's a section for the other approach and the third approach. And then you have these sections, and then now you can start customizing the language to fit and reflect what your agency wants to have in your contract. The course itself goes beyond just the contract language, just quickly helping you understand ADA compliance in the marketplace. Because I've talked to several agency owners, and when I'm consulting with them, they usually have the same questions, but their understanding of ADA compliance in the marketplace varies. So it's important that you are on the same page with what actually is going on, and then so you can work forward from that, and helping your clients, because your clients may have one understanding, you may have another. So it's good to have this understanding. You also want to work on your approach and decide what approach works best for you. I highly recommend you start out at hybrid, but you may ultimately want to be at embracing fully. I can understand if anybody doesn't want to get involved in this, but it's ultimately accessibility is going to be something you are going to be involved with in some way, form, or fashion, because clients are going to bring this to you, or you're going to lose clients because they are going somewhere else to have accessibility services fulfilled. So in some way, form, or fashion, you will have to deal with this. But if you want to avoid it altogether, I do talk about how that would come about. And then there's also a template on messaging your clients with an intro email. So it's a delicate topic, because you don't want to come across like you haven't been doing your job and you haven't been providing excellent services. But at the same time, if accessibility hasn't been something you've been thinking about, it hasn't been something you've been aware about, then you're going to need to introduce this in a way that clients can understand. This is relatively new, but this is something that you want to make sure they know about, because it is something that, one, is very, very important, and two, can potentially lead to litigation. So there is an intro email template as well. And then some of the services you can potentially offer, a few 150 words on copy. I may increase that, but when I say copy, it's just basically when you talk about accessibility on your website, how do you word this? What services do you offer, etc. So I have a few words on that. I'll probably increase that as that time goes on. Some marketing, there are some marketing material to help you better word how you're going to market this to prospective clients and to current clients when you are selling services. And so all of these are in there as templates. And again, they're here to help you get started and to also help you shore up any gaps in your knowledge, because one of the things that bothers me the most is when I know there's something I don't know about a particular topic. And with ADA compliance, many people are working from different versions of knowledge, And it's good to make sure that you have a strong foundation and you are aligned with what is actually correct, so that you as an agency, whether you're a web development agency, a web design agency, SEO agency, social marketing, etc., whether even if you just provide, let's say, WordPress themes, it's important to know what this is. It's important to have a strong foundation of what ADA compliance is all about, how to use the terminology correctly, what words to actually say, what is actually going on the marketplace. There are so many ways that people are misaligned, and this course will help you get aligned. And so you can talk intelligently to clients. You can approach this in an intelligent way, and then you can also have really a fast track to getting started in your language, your marketing materials, your contract, etc. So this is all there for you. I will include a link to the course in the description for this video. And if you have any questions, definitely leave a comment.